Greetings everybody, we are in Hanover, we're in front of Tulip Interfaces booth with Eric. Eric, tell us what Tulip does first off.
Yeah, so happy to. Tulip is a no-code frontline operations platform. At the end of the day, what we want to do is give better tools to the people who are running manufacturing, life sciences environments to, at the end of the day, make the work better and easier and more effective for the people doing the work. That's what Tulip is all about.
Thank you so much. Now here you're demoing Pop-Up Factory. What is it and what are some of the benefits for the same people you said, the operators there?
Well, actually, it's an important point. So we've got a little bit of a unique experience here. As you mentioned, we did a pop-up factory. So instead of a booth where you just go up and we show you exactly what our software does, what we wanted to do is create an experience that puts everybody in the shoes of an operator. So we say we're actually building word clocks here. We really are, and people can take them home with them after the show. But the first thing they're going to do is they're going to walk up to a station and they're going to become a frontline worker. And they're going to have to go through the operation, put this together. And the reason that that's so important is because a lot of times when we're having these conversations around digital transformation or using technology to empower the frontline worker, a lot of times we actually forget about the experience of the frontline worker. And so if you're the executive director of a board, if you're the COO of a company or the head of digital transformation, before we start talking about digital transformation, we want to remind ourselves what the work actually entails and then make sure that any subsequent conversation is in the context of the work that we're ultimately trying to enable.
Thank you, Aaron. Sounds like a lot of opportunity there, more on the frontline operations there. But as you touch on digital transformation journey, how does Tulip composable architecture support their unique needs and help maintain agility and in this rapidly changing markets?
Yeah, great question. Well, so like I mentioned, Tulip is a no-code frontline operations platform. And a lot of times you hear talk of like, is Tulip an MES, is Tulip not an MES, and it can be a little bit confusing. But the key point that I want to make is, look, it's a platform, and a very common use case for us is for people to build an MES on our platform. So much so that at this show we actually are announcing our composable MES app suite for the first time. So if you go to our library and you search composable MES, you'll see we've got a full app suite with a common data model that's all documented. We've got university courses. We've got all of the app suites that you can install. The point here though is, look, Tulip is not an MES. Tulip is the platform you can use to build these types of tools, and the way that you build these types of tools is through this idea of composability. So you don't have to architect the perfect solution and then force top-down adherence to this rigid data model. What you can do is say, look, what are the problems that are most pressing? Let me build applications to help guide the frontline worker, solve these problems, create real business value, and then iteratively take on additional scope while connecting all of these solutions and working your way into this production system for your shop floor. But these are like core concepts of maintaining agility and enabling continuous improvement in these types of environments.
Well, I like this composable MES, and we've done a session on the death of MES, and particularly on the line to expose that there is this opportunity, sort of the lines are blurring. It doesn't have to be box, is it a MES, is it a IoT platform, what is it? But maybe talk about one of the other new offerings or you introduced here, which is the Frontline Copilot that utilizes AI to enhance the capability of frontline workers. And what kind of productivity gains are you observing so far in your implementations?
Yeah, another great question. So at this show, we announced two things. First, composable MES, we just talked about. The second thing is Frontline Copilot. So Frontline Copilot, at the end of the day, again, it's about how do we, really there's three buckets here. The first is how are we getting better tools to the frontline workers here? The second is how can we use generative AI as a way to explore the data and start to analyze the data that's being captured through these different applications that you have on the Tulip platform. And then the third is more on the generative side. So if I want to create an app experience, how can I do that more quickly, more efficiently using these technologies? So Frontline Copilot is really focused on these three buckets. The two that we're really highlighting here at this show is first on the operator side. So for example, you can now within the no-code platform of Tulip embed a chat modal where you can train this chat modal on a very specific data set. So for example, you might want to train this this model on just the safety data sheets of some chemicals you're using. And you can start to ask questions. What do I do if I get this chemical in my eye or if it gets on my skin? So that's one example. Another example of Frontline Copilot that we're unveiling here is a way to explore all of the data that's being captured in your tables. So you can start just asking questions of your data in plain language, and it's going to start generating analyses in the background and start revealing insights. And so these are a couple of the things that we're announcing today. The important point, though, if I were to emphasize one thing, is that Tulip is here. We're making this capability available to all of our customers starting next week, regardless of their tier. So it doesn't. If you have Tulip, we're a cloud-native platform. You're going to get an update next week, and you'll start to realize these capabilities. And everybody's going to get credits that they need to be able to use these tools.
Thanks for sharing that. And if I remember correctly, the stats, it takes on average to train an operator to be really good at his job, and yet the average quitting time is after 6 months. So it's getting tougher and tougher to get good operators. You're empowering them, even if you get them new into the warehouses or wherever you use leverage operators. So maybe since you've been here for a few days at Hannover Messe, talk about some of the trends that you've seen in talking to the customers and some of the common questions you get from the customers. What are they trying to solve?
Yeah, well, I think one of the common themes we're seeing is when you're talking about deploying software to your operational environment, composability is a term that's really resonating with people. They've all, everybody who's been around for a while has been burned by top-down system implementations that are overly rigid. I was listening to a talk earlier today from a competitor in the MES space, and they were saying, imagine this disaster situation where you implement your system and then a requirement changes. Like, what do you do? It's like, buddy, this is not an edge case. This is every manufacturing environment, because fundamentally this is a dynamic environment, right? So I think this idea of composability, this idea of enabling continuous improvement within the context of this production system software layer is becoming critical. And I think, a couple of years ago, people were still trying to figure out what this means. I think at this point, people got the memo and people are on board.
All right, Eric. So one of the other trends I'm seeing as I'm walking around different halls here in Hannover Messe is this term ecosystems. And I'm curious, what does ecosystem mean to Tulip? What is open ecosystem?
Yeah. No, it's a really actually important question. Tulip, first of all, fundamentally is built on an open architecture. So what does an open architecture mean? Put simply, it means that, look, we'll take data from any system, any machine, any device, and we'll give data to any system, any machine, any device. And if you think about, Tulip was built this way from day zero. So this was a fundamental decision that we made when we first got started with Tulip. And if you think about this, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was viewed as a competitive advantage to say, no, you buy your full stack from me, I'm going to give you your PLM, I'm going to give you your ERP, I'm going to give you your MES, so on and so forth. And what that ultimately leads to is a subpar user experience.
Right.
Maybe you've got the best ERP, but you certainly don't have the best MES, or maybe you have a pretty good PLM, but do I really want you for my IoT layer, for example? So my point is, this model, I think we're seeing die a glorious death, because frankly it has no place in the market today as far as I'm concerned. And what an open ecosystem, or what an ecosystem, what we're seeing, what we fully support, and what we're building is we're committed to making the best of breed technology available to our customers, and making sure that it's seamlessly interoperable with the Tulip platform. So you can build an application, and if you look at our pop-up factory, this is a pretty good example. You build an application, it can talk to Banner sensors. You can run a vision model on Landing AI with a camera that you bought off the shelf on the, at the store. There's many other examples. And if you go to our library, tulip.co/library, and click technology partners, you'll see we've got over 60 technology partners, and that number is growing day over day. So
just so I understand, on a Pop Factory, what you're doing on Pop-Up Factory, you basically may have a vendor like Landing AI that may be perceived as a competitor or competitor.
Yeah. Well,
it's the best interest of the customer. You leverage the best thing.
And look, manufacturing is huge. This is like 27% of global GDP. It's over 20% of the global labor force. It is huge. No one company is going to get it all right. The only way we're going to actually move the needle here is by working together and agreeing to these open architectures. And I think that's the real shift that you're seeing. What I'm saying with Tulip specifically is, you go to our website and you look at our partners, you're going to see all sorts of partners that have some overlap in capabilities. And I say that's great. If Tulip solves that problem better for you, all good. If that part of the functionality is better served by the company that we're partnering with, that works too. It's the customer's decision, not the vendor's decision, is the point.
Yeah, exciting times, and sounds like you're embracing this abundance versus scarcity sort of a moment that a lot of the vendors in manufacturing had been used to.
Yeah. Well, a rising tide lifts all boats, you know, and that's how we feel about the ecosystem. And at the end of the day, getting better tools to the customer.
Thank you for those insights, for sharing with us, and maybe talking about some of the, looking beyond the 2024, what future developments and operations do you see, and you know, how does Tulip is planning to innovate and adapt to these new offerings?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we've been at this show for 4 days now. Generative AI is everywhere. I would say I've seen a lot more billboards than I've seen demos, you know? So I think everybody's talking about it. You've got some folks who are doing some pretty interesting things here. I would put us in this category. I think next year it's going to be everywhere. The product development side, we're cloud native, we do continuous release, so our platform's getting updated every day. I think some of these other players are going to have, this is going to become more of a core part of their offering, and I think that's a trend we're going to see continue. And I think that's going to be driven by a lot of the trends that you mentioned, which is attracting and retaining labor force is increasingly difficult. You know, we're seeing a lot of folks leave, you know, retire from the manufacturing workforce, and I think that generative AI, and specifically in the context of Tulip, Frontline Copilot, is a means that we have to help decrease the training time, increase the efficiency, and give people the benefit of superhuman intelligence at their fingertips via the applications that we're making available. So I think that's one trend that we're going to see continue. Obviously, we're putting a lot of focus into this as well. We're pretty early on the market in terms of actually fielding these capabilities, and we don't plan on slowing down at all.
Thank you, Eric, and I fully agree about your comment about AI, and it's also a challenge for the visitors here to see what is the real use case. And one of the commitments we're making to the audience that we're going to try to come up with a way to have a sort of a booklet or some portal, a hub where you find this use case from Tulip and others. They are pushing the envelope here. So if you folks in the audience have questions for Eric or people on his team, feel free to either, show up in the booth, there are demos here, or leverage the hashtag on the screen and we'll bring Eric or somebody else to answer those questions, or we will follow up via email or the comments there. So thank you, Eric.
My pleasure. Thank you.